Matter of hours, President Trump will reveal his Supreme Court nominee in a live address from the White House. The top contenders reportedly are Judge Neil Gorsuch, who sits on the 10th Circuit Court of Appeals in Denver, and Judge Thomas Hardiman. He sits on the 3rd Circuit Court of Appeals in Pittsburgh. We're learning from sources that Senate Democrats are weighing whether to go to war, to go to the mat with Trump over this nomination, or save the battle for a future nomination, which could shift the balance of the court. Right now, you'll recall there is one vacancy. That seat was held by conservative Justice Antonin Scalia, who died a year ago. I want to bring in Pate. He's a constitutional attorney joining me from Atlanta. It's been some time since we've spoken. Happy New Year to you.
Same to you, Michaela.
Why don't we talk about these two contenders and where they stand, especially when you think about the record of the late Justice Scalia?
I think a lot of commentators, lawyers, observers, politicians certainly want to try to measure both of these potential justices up to Justice Scalia. As we all know, Justice Scalia believed in the original words in the Constitution, a very strict constructionist. If the Constitution says something, we don't try to look behind the words, don't try to gain any inference from the meaning, but what do the words of the Constitution say? Wanted to really limit his interpretation of federal statutes to the language in the Constitution. Both of these potential justices, they do the same thing. They are very conservative, very much in support of the Second Amendment, very much in support of religious liberty statutes that we've seen pop up across the country, and a lot less controversial on the abortion question, which Judge Pryor from the 11th Circuit here in Atlanta would have been a much more controversial pick. Now, he could still do that. You know, President Trump has been unpredictable during the last few days of his administration, so he could always pull Judge Pryor back out of the hat, but I think that would be a much more difficult fight for him in the Senate.
His track record has been unpredictable, to be sure. You speak about these issues, and you can imagine that those are front of mind as the president makes a decision, as he's been making the decision. You know, if you're a skeptical person, you might say it was curious, the fact that he was moving this announcement up to today. Do you think there's any significance in that?
Well, there certainly could be. I know he is obviously trying to generate, I don't know intentionally, but he's certainly generating a lot of controversy with almost every decision that he makes, these executive orders that have legal and constitutional problems. And I think it's going to be very interesting to see which of these judges he picks, because the immigration issue is right now in front of the United States Supreme Court. There are 4 cases that are dealing with the issue of immigrants and exactly what level of rights they have under our Constitution. And so with a 4-4 split, this next pick is going to tip the balance one way or the other. If it goes in President Trump's favor, this new executive order, this travel ban, could be found constitutional, but it's possible that you may have enough justices, even with this new pick, to strike it down.
Paige, indulge me for a second. We've got to talk about the Sally Yates story, the AG who was summarily dismissed after defying the orders of President Trump. I know you know her professionally and personally from her time as U.S. Attorney there in Atlanta. I'm curious your reaction and thoughts to all of this.
Well, personally, I'm very proud of Sally Yates, and I have known of her and known her personally for many years. She was an assistant federal prosecutor here in Atlanta. She rose to the #2 position in that office as first assistant United States attorney, and then ultimately appointed U.S. attorney by President Obama. She has served both Republicans and Democrats as a federal prosecutor, always followed the law, always a person of principle, very strong moral compass. And as I think you have pointed out earlier in the show, she made a commitment to Senator Sessions at her confirmation hearing for Deputy Attorney General, saying if I think something the president is doing or asking me to do, it violates the Constitution, I'm not going to do it. I'm going to say no, and that's exactly what she did.
All right, well, we were so glad to get your perspective on all of this. Pate, really great to see you. Thanks for joining us today. We'll watch all of these stories with you as we